As David said, I'm going to talk a bit more concretely about what we've been doing at Move to Amend since 2010, and then a couple of initiatives that we actually started this year. To start out, I'm going to pass around our petition, as I've done.
I'll get this one in the back.
At all of the talks that we've done in the past week, primarily because that is the first tool in the toolbox and the most effective tool if you were to want to start an affiliate or a partner affiliate in your city or town. We started an affiliate in Los Angeles and I think it was December 2010. I joined in about May 2011. But the petition, I like to say, is different than most organizing petitions it's different than most petitions that you would see online because it is an organizing petition. Like normally you would sign a moveon.org or signon.org or whitehouse.gov petition, and then you would wait for someone in power to get back to you about it. This petition is different because its primary use is for people who've already established affiliates to have contact with people in the area who already support Move to Amend and already want to get rid of corporate rights. An example I usually like to give is in Los Angeles, I think during our first year or so, we gathered maybe 1,500 names on the petition by going to like farmers markets and neighborhood festivals and things like that. But we had access to about 3,500 to 4,000 names because of the people who signed the petitions around the country. So if you actually did want to start an affiliate, that would be the first and most effective way to grow the size of your affiliate and then to get the word out about actions or workshops or petitioning that you're doing in your area. I'm going to start by talking about two basic things that we do to try to, and I usually write the 3 words up here, but I got to think about the sound of paper, so I'm not going to do that. The words are educate, empower, and provoke. They're sort of like educate, agitate, and organize, but the biggest thing that we saw in terms of Citizens United and the public sort of recognition of what it means and what corporate personhood means is that they don't really know. Like at most, partially because of David's traveling and the work of some other groups, they found out about Citizens United because there was a huge backlash in the progressive community and a huge backlash in the libertarian community. But by and large populations who are not themselves professional activists or organizers don't have a real understanding of it. So the two primary tools that we wanted to use to broaden that understanding are city or town resolutions or city or town ballot initiatives. And I'll start by quickly going over the story of our Los Angeles resolution, but then ending up by talking about why we actually prefer people to do ballot initiatives if they can. And this is assuming that you're completely enthralled by everything that David said, and then you really like what I said, and you want to start an affiliate, or you want to partner an affiliate to an organization that you're already a part of. LA is about 60 million people, and we figured a ballot initiative is probably not the best thing to start with. We probably need to do a whole lot of community education first. So we kept track of the systems that were already in place in LA. And LA has about 96 neighborhood councils. And these neighborhood councils are official wings of the city and they have official budgets. So we thought we would start our education campaign by going to these neighborhood festivals, collecting petition signatures, and then going to the neighborhood councils and trying to pass resolutions through the neighborhood councils, getting a critical mass, and then going to City Hall. We started this way because a member of our LA affiliate was a member of a neighborhood council. We submitted our basic resolution to be on the agenda for the neighborhood council, and even before we went to present, we got a bunch of emails back. Basically, the council president was sort of freaking out because the city attorney looks over everything that the neighborhood council rules on, and they were like, wait a second, we're not sure if you guys can actually hear that. So the city of Los Angeles actually had to do an entire review, which they usually don't do. Usually the neighborhood councils just pass whatever they want to pass, and it's no big deal. So by the time we got there, we weren't exactly sure what we would expect, we thought it would be a slam dunk from the start, but we actually had about 2.5 hours of debate, and it passed. I forget the exact numbers, but there were about 5 against and like 11 for, but you know, we got a basic majority. But shortly after that, we found out that one of our city council members, who's probably going to be our next mayor in Los Angeles, or just lose being our next mayor, Eric Garcetti, was actually pushing a resolution through our city council. But unlike move to amend's proposed amendment language, which says both corporations are not people and money is not speech, it focused only on Citizens United. So we took this as an opportunity to organize more, because at that time, our LA affiliate, even though we are in a county of 16 million people, meeting attendance went from like 5 people this month, 7 people this month, 20 people this month, and then back down to 7. So we weren't really sure that we were ready to go, but we knew that we didn't want a weak resolution to pass through our city council, because we'll probably talk about it a bit in the Q&A, but I mean, it's not like we had a functioning democracy prior to Citizens United. I mean, everything Jack Abramoff did, aside from the 1 or 2 things that he got caught at last, are still legal. So there's a lot of fixing we got to do. So basically, we're like, okay, we're going to tackle this resolution. We're going to make it stronger. And one of the things that you have an opportunity to do with both the resolution campaign or ballot initiative is first take stock of the organizations that you're already members of. In LA, a lot of us were already members of like the Sierra Club. A lot of us were members of different entertainment unions, Green Party, Democratic Party, Libertarian Party, things like that. So we reached out to those different constituencies, and we actually passed the resolution itself within our different clubs and things like that. And then we actually did our own personal research to basically go into these groups, like go into labor groups, which initially actually filed, I forget which group, but like the ACLU and a couple of labor groups actually filed briefs in favor of Citizens United prior to the case going through. But after Citizens United, they suddenly realized, wait, we don't have billions of dollars, and the corporations do, so everything we thought about how this would be good for us is wrong. So it was actually fairly easy to convince them, but we actually did a lot of personal research to reach out to environmental groups to tell them why this is wrong, to reach out to groups that are trying to get charter schools to stay out of their communities, to tell them why, you know, you need to advocate for it into corporate personhood. And one of the things that was most effective is in both preparing to speak to these groups and preparing to speak to the city council, we convened what we called a speakers bureau, where we had everybody who was willing and comfortable speaking in public actually come in with a 1 to 2 minute speech, completely sort of unprepared, but that sort of crystallized their personal passion about why they think corporate personhood should end and why we should amend the Constitution. And we didn't give any more direction than that, but people came from very specific directions. A lot of people talked about, you know, the coastline and the water, or animals, or nuclear power, or elections, or just the environment in general, or charter schools. And what we found is we got a whole lot more resonant sort of prepared speeches. Like, even though they were prepared speeches, it was easy to communicate the subtext and the truth of what these people were saying. So once we got into our resolution, first had to go to a subcommittee at the LA City Council where they would accept any type of revisions or changes and things like that. And at that first subcommittee meeting, we had about 150 people come out, and I think we managed to have about 75 make a public comment, though they shrink our time from 2 minutes to 1 minute. And as a result, we got the resolution changed from just amending the Constitution to get rid of Citizens United to amending the Constitution to say corporations are not people and money is not speech. But the entire resolution had to go before the entire City Council, not just the subcommittee, which it did on December 6, 2011. And for that, we did sort of the same thing we did before by making contacts with all of the groups that we were already members of. But then we reached out even farther to like the County Federation of Labor and SEIU and a billion different locals that are in LA. I think our final group list was somewhere around like 90 different organizations. So when we went before the entire LA City Council, we had about 650 people show up. We were in about 2 or 3 different overflow rooms. I actually didn't get a chance to make a public comment because I was sort of recuperating from a jail sickness that I got because I was arrested during the Occupy LA raid with a lot of different comrades. So, but we did have our public comment time extended 2 or 3 times, and we had about, I think, 150 to 250 people speak that day. And even though we were a bit wary, because in LA, both the Chamber of Commerce and this business lobby called the Central City Association basically contribute to everybody's campaign. They're sort of like the Wells Fargo of LA, you know, playing every hand. So we weren't really sure if some of the more business-minded people would vote for or against it, but it ended up passing 11-0 with 2 people abstaining. I guess basically not to make their business interest angry or anything. And it passed and it was great, but it's not the preferred way for us to do things. The one positive I will say about it, and the positive that I've mentioned this past week, is from Occupy activists who are like 16 and 17 to like older activists who are like in their 70s and 80s. I was actually arrested with a comrade named Ruth, who was 79 at the time, and she also showed up for the vote. Most of them said that this was the first time that they'd done anything political, and they really felt empowered. And I think both the ballot resolution, both the resolution and the ballot initiative have that potential to make people believe that they can actually do something. Because the biggest thing that's been missing in our political discourse and the activist and organizing world for the last 30 or 40 years is a belief by people that what they do actually matters, or that they can actually change something. And that was one of the biggest things that I enjoyed about Occupy, one of the reasons that I was involved so much, and that I'm still involved, and me and David are going to the national gathering in Kalamazoo, Michigan in August. But yeah, that was great. Resolutions are great, they're fine. We prefer, if people actually start an affiliate or have an affiliate, that they actually go for a ballot initiative. And that's for a couple different reasons. You still have the same opportunities to reach out to groups in your area that you're already a member of, or labor organizations, or libertarian groups, green groups, whatever. But even if you don't get to those people, the biggest advantage of the ballot initiative is you put the question before everybody. And it's hard to understate how big that is, because to date, we've had about, I forget whether it's 25 or 28 ballot initiatives around the country, and they've all won. And they've been in conservative areas, and liberal areas, and more mixed areas, and the percentages are usually 70 to 80% winning. So if you put the question just plainly before people, one, it gets them thinking about it when they might not have thought about it at all, when this might be like very low down their rung of issues, like I gotta feed the kids, I gotta get to work, I gotta make sure I'm not fired, I gotta exercise, maybe I'm in the Constitution, But it puts the question in front of them, and when they vote, they talk about it later. Or when they see us on the street, another big advantage of it is, I like to say that the petitioning that I've done with Move to Amend, even though I've been active in the activist and organizing community for a while, is my first real brush at petitioning. It's usually something that I shy away from. I'm fairly comfortable talking in front of people and like working with people in groups to try to find solutions to problems, but I really don't like talking to people who might not want to talk to me. But when you have something like a ballot initiative, something concrete to talk to people about, instead of running away like a lot of people do when you're like, can I sign this petition? They actually stop and talk if it's something that's on the ballot, and it's very easy to have that conversation, and it's very easy to, it makes it easier for you if you're like me and you don't like just walking up to random people. But in general, I just want to restate, resolutions and ballot initiatives are basically the way that we started, and we've had a whole lot of success. Like I said, 28 ballot initiatives passed. We've helped, because once we started doing resolutions, a lot of other DC groups that also are working on some form of constitutional reform, usually with language that we think is fairly weak, also jumped on the resolution bandwagon. So we've passed about 500 resolutions around the country. David's been mentioning this week, when he first came through Maine and New Hampshire, I think at the time we had maybe 7 affiliates, and right now we have about 175. And I don't know how many supporters we had on our petition, but right now we have 282,000. And we're looking to try to get upwards to 300, 400, or 500,000 before the year is over. And we do have a lot of momentum. But those are the basic things that started out as our strategy. There are 2 things that we're rolling out this year that in a way are responses to some things that our members have been asking, but they also are basically the building blocks to build an actual movement, which is what we actually need if we're going to do something as big as amending the Constitution. The first one is called We the People Listen, and it's basically a listening project. We actually got some fairly good news about somebody that we're probably going to collaborate with in Los Angeles on this today as well. But it's a listening project to get people out into their own community. The example I've been using this week is I live in Los Angeles. I live in West LA in a city called Culver City. It's close to Venice Beach and Marina del Rey, but it's not on the water. It's like 10 minutes away. But I know more people, possibly thanks to Occupy, in like a 1-block radius in downtown than I know in my entire apartment building. And I feel like I am emblematic of a lot of people in the United States. And it's, I mean, the last 5 or 6 years we can blame like Facebook and Twitter and TV and stuff like that, but it's been something that's been going on for decades now. This sort of like disconnection of American citizens from other American citizens. So the aim of We the People Speak is to get people out in their own communities, talking with the people like on their block or their next door neighbor and asking them what they're really concerned about. Like if these people happen to be interested in Move to Amend, like we will obviously mention Move to Amend and corporate personhood and things like that. If they happen to mention Move to Amend, great, we'll sign them up, we'll put them on the list, we'll tell them about updates and actions and workshops that are going. But the principal thing and the principal aim of this is just to get people to feel more connected to their community and to get people in their community to feel like somebody cares about them. The biggest thing that I'll mention about that before I move on to the other thing and we go into a Q&A is that we're not going to ask for money at all. And that's for 2 different reasons. A lot of times when you ask for money, people close the door. But 2, if you knock on someone's door and you say I want to have a conversation with you and you emphasize the fact that I want to listen to you and I want to hear what you care about, and you don't ask them for money, like there's a weight that lifts off their shoulders and they're like, okay, well, yeah. I mean, you might have to cut off the conversation because people, I mean, a lot of people don't actually get that opportunity anymore to actually be listened to. So we're looking forward to rolling that out. One of the other things, if you're already on our email list or have been watching us on Facebook or Twitter, is something that, and I guess I'll mention, we were in Massachusetts, we were in Maine, and a Maine state senator was actually in the audience, and he was a Move to Amend supporter, but he was telling us about how, like, I love what you guys are doing, but I don't know what I can do. And he made an example by like walking up to our board and being like, see, this is me, this is my day. I got to think about the budget. I got to think about taxes. I got to think about mining. I got to think about the environment. I got to think about Move to Amend. I got to think about schools. I mean, how am I supposed to prioritize this? You know, and it's the same problem everybody goes through. But his point was, people call me about the budget. People call me about taxes. People call me about mining. People call me about the environment and their kids' school. People don't call me about Move to Amend. So there's a certain way, if he's going to be responsive to his constituents, that he's going to have to prioritize things. Which is why this year we're rolling out what we call Pledge to Amend. And what we're trying to do is get state senators and legislators on record as to whether or not they support an amendment to the Constitution that says corporations are not people and money is not speech. And as David mentioned before, ultimately what we'd like to do is get not only state but national politicians on record and bird dog them on that point and make it a condition of election. And try to have pressure come not just from the grassroots, even though at Move to Amend we are primarily focused on the grassroots because we really do feel that we need a movement that makes this inevitable no matter who's in office in order for this to happen. But we also want to, you know, apply some pressure inside the system, and Pledge to Amend is the way that we think we can effectively do that. This is sort of the testing ground now, but we'll see how it works out. Last thing I'll mention, I guess before we go into questions, is I mentioned We the People Speak, and in Los Angeles it seems like we're going to have an opportunity to work with this organization called CalPIRG. I don't know if you guys are familiar with PIRG, but they're everywhere. And we're actually going to be able to work with them and hopefully train and use their students specifically to go out into neighborhoods and spread the word and listen to people and, you know, get this movement going in an intergenerational type of way. But with that, I think I'll stop for now.
All right, yeah, thank you so much, Daniel Lee. So what we're going to do now, we've got a full hour together. We've got 15 minutes. All right, so thanks for that. So we'll be very quick then. If you'd like to make a comment or ask a question, raise your hand. I've got number 1, number 2, number 3. Mike is number 4. And be quick, and I'll be quick, number 5. And I'll also actually ask very quickly, Noor, what did I charge you to come here today? Nothing. Bill? What was the fee? 0. We didn't charge you anything. The point is, my friends, this was a gift to you, but we also need to eat. So, brother, can I borrow that hat off of your head? Would you mind? Can I borrow your hat? I'm not joking. I'm going to take and pass this hat around. If you're willing to make a contribution, we would gratefully accept it. If you can write a check, we'll take that. Move to Amend. It's very easy. And if you want to make a contribution on a credit card before we leave, we've got that available too. So I'll just start this going around. And if you don't want to make a contribution, you don't have to. Just pass the hat. Please don't leave because a little old hat's coming around, right? So who's number 1?
I think it's right here.
Yes, sir.
Say it's a success and this passes and the Constitution is amended. What would the impact be on corporations? Do corporate people, do they just automatically oppose it, or I mean, does it mean all corporations would move to Holland or something, or what would they still be here and just not be able to do some of the bad things they do?
Well, I was going to say, very quickly, what would happen afterwards, it would be free for us to determine. It would not automatically nullify a lot of the laws that are on the books, but it would free us to make new laws that govern how corporations function. And just to end it up, the United States and Iraq are the only countries in the world where corporate rights are enshrined in the Constitution.
Yeah,
we wrote the Constitution.
Yeah, how about that, Bill? So the point is that we are not anti-corporation. We just don't believe they have constitutional rights. And I talk to lots of principled conservatives who agree with us, many of whom work for or actually own corporations. It's just not the corporate ruling elite. See, that's the difference.
So if you were Apple Corporation, you shouldn't necessarily be nervous about this movement, really.
I don't think so. Why should you be? Number 2 is number 2. Sorry, we're going to go quickly because I didn't realize we only had 15 minutes.
I just wanted to know, is this planning to bypass the traditional town meeting and New England town meeting?
No, we do not want to bypass. We want to integrate it and actually use it. And that was part of the meeting that we had with the folks at New Hampshire Peace Action, New Hampshire American Friends Service Committee, Open Democracy, and others. We would love to use the warrant as a way to actually gear up on this. So absolutely not, and let's just lift up the New England Town Hall meeting is actually an example of communities actually talking to themselves. So we don't want to bypass it, we want to utilize it.
For sure.
Number 3.
Yep.
Yes.
I know you guys just hit 13 for states that passed your resolution, so congratulations on that. I think that's awesome. I'm just curious, like, what you're going to do with those volunteers in those states, right, that have already passed. Like, do you have the next level? And one of the reasons I ask is because I'm the director of organizing for Wolfpack, which I know you know, Jake.
Hey,
so, yeah, it's run just a couple of
blocks
out of here. Yeah.
Hey, it's given. I get your emails.
Yeah. Oh, well, there you go. So, I guess my question is, can we have your volunteers in those states?
I feel like we could definitely work together more. I think last year at Netroots, me and Egberto Willies, I think we met Chris, is that right?
Yeah, we have a new, he's not really with us anymore.
Okay, well, useless conversation. But we really want to work together, specifically in Los Angeles and California as we gear up for possible state things. But I think a lot of our groups are partner affiliates, and they work on other things, and they have a lot of different focuses. So maybe we can collaborate.
Yeah, and that's the way to say it, Michael. I mean, and I'm not being sycophantic to you, and I'm also I'm being very clear and transparent. I mean, I think I like what I'm seeing, and we do want to collaborate with you. And what that would mean is getting together and saying, all right, well, what does that look like? I mean, how do we actually work in a way that like Wolfpack and Move to Amend are coming together? I will let you know, before Jake actually formed Wolfpack itself, I told him you should just roll right into Move to Amend the coalition, right? So, y'all decided to go a different way, and that's totally your right. And so I'm not fussing about it.
Right.
I'm just saying we actually stepped to y'all in its inception and said, let's do it. Y'all just didn't have enough coherence yet, but now you do.
We're getting there.
You're getting there.
I mean, I think that we're on the same team.
Absolutely.
Slightly different strategies, but we'll be on the same team.
Absolutely. Well said, Michael.
Yeah.
Number 3.
He was
Four. Oh, we're moving right along.
Number 4, I'm going to say make the same comment I made the other day about that I think the idea of going door to door. I was a canvasser decades ago for Acorn and for Citizen Action, and I always thought that was a great way to organize, except you're always asking people for money. And I love the fact that you're not asking people for money when you do this. But my question is related to what Michael just asked about. Maine just passed a resolution 2 days ago requesting amendment of the Constitution. Here's the copy of the resolution right here. They're asking to Congress, they've submitted this resolution to the Congress to amend the Constitution. So, what's left? We've done it here. Maine has done it. What's left here? And also, there was just quickly, specifically they related to Bernie Sanders' bill or his resolution for his constitutional amendment, which kind of covers the idea of corporate personhood too. And I'm worried about the perfect being the enemy of the good. You know what I mean in terms of the work. And so, if you could maybe address those.
Well, I was going to say really quickly. In Los Angeles, for an example, when we passed the city resolution, and we're actually going to have it on the ballot in May 21st in the mayoral election too, we still continue going into the neighborhood councils, because when things pass in legislative assemblies, it's the legislators that know about them and the activists and organizers that have done the work, but the people in general don't. So there's a whole lot of more education work to do. One, even if the state has passed a resolution, because not everybody knows, and in order to have a movement, you need a whole lot more informed people. But secondly, the Sanders Amendment, there's a good section on our website that gives a comparison of our proposed amendment and other amendments. And
What is the website?
movetoamend.org. There's a good section called Other Amendments where basically it breaks down what we disagree about and why we disagree. But the Sanders Amendment specifically, in its inception, it exempted nonprofit corporations, and that's a big thorn in our side, principally because Citizens United itself, Crossroads USA, ALEC, and so many organizations are nonprofits, so it would effectively not affect them at all, and that's not something we like.
And in fact, it's even worse than that, because in this legislative session right now, the current Sanders Amendment only includes money as speech. It doesn't even include corporate constitutional rights at all. But I want to get right down to your point when you say what's there left to do in Maine. Are you kidding me? Honestly, everything. Because a resolution is non-binding. This is where Michael and Wolfpack and David and Daniel and Move to Amend agree, is we actually need to get much more concrete. What our preferred strategy at the state legislative level is our model legislation that's been introduced in Minnesota, and this is where we'll get down to how do we slice and dice this, but what we've decided strategically is a legislation, not a resolution, not just a non-binding, this is what we think, a state law that says we are giving Congress 1 year to present and propose the We the People